I want to start today by telling you about a patient I saw not too long ago. She was 68 years old, sharp as a tack, no major health conditions, and she came into my office looking genuinely puzzled. She said, "Doctor, I feel like I aged 10 years in the last 2. And when I looked at her posture, the way she moved, the stiffness in her hands when she reached for the chair, I believed her. She had not been diagnosed with anything new. She had not gone through a major illness or a traumatic injury. She had simply been living her normal, everyday life, and that was exactly the problem. Because what most people do not realize, and what I am going to show you clearly today, is that the things most likely to accelerate how fast your body ages are not the dramatic events. They are not the accidents or the diagnoses. They are the quiet, ordinary habits you repeat every single day without a second thought. The routines that feel completely harmless. The ones that have become so automatic you have stopped seeing them at all. By the end of this video, you're going to be looking at 3 of those routines very differently. And I want to be clear about something before we go any further. I am not going to tell you to overhaul your entire life. I am not going to give you a complicated program or tell you that you need to become a different person. What I am going to do is show you exactly what is happening inside your body during these 3 specific habits, why the damage compounds quietly over months and years, and what small, realistic shifts can interrupt that process starting today. Stay with me, because the 3rd one especially is something almost nobody talks about, and it may be the most important thing I say in this entire video. The first routine is the way you sit, and specifically how long you do it without interruption. Now, before you tell me that you already know sitting too much is bad for you, I want you to hear what I am actually saying, because it is more specific than that general warning and far more serious. The research on prolonged, uninterrupted sitting has produced findings that continue to genuinely surprise physicians, including me. We are not talking about a mild inconvenience. We are talking about a cascade of physiological changes that begin in your body within 60 to 90 minutes of sitting still. Changes that, when repeated daily over years, measurably accelerate biological aging at the cellular level. Here is what happens when you sit for an extended period, particularly in the typical positions most of us default to: slightly forward, shoulders rounded, weight unevenly distributed. Several things occur simultaneously. The large muscles of your posterior chain, your glutes, your hamstrings, your lower back extensors, they essentially switch off, not weaken gradually, switch off. The neurological signal that keeps them engaged drops dramatically, and over time, this produces what is sometimes called gluteal amnesia, a condition where these foundational muscles lose their ability to fire correctly even when you want them to. And when those muscles stop working properly, every joint above and below them begins to compensate. Your hips tilt forward, your lumbar spine loses its natural curve, your thoracic spine rounds, your neck juts forward, your knees begin to track incorrectly when you walk. One set of muscles going quiet creates a postural collapse that spreads through the entire body like a slow avalanche. But the damage goes deeper than posture and muscle function. Prolonged sitting dramatically reduces circulation to the lower extremities, slowing the delivery of oxygen and nutrients to joint cartilage, which, as I have discussed before, has no direct blood supply and depends entirely on movement and compression to stay nourished. It increases systemic inflammation, measurably in the bloodstream, by triggering a rise in inflammatory markers, including C-reactive protein and interleukin-6. And perhaps most striking of all, research examining telomere length, the protective caps on our chromosomes that are one of the most reliable biological measures of cellular aging, has found that people who sit for more than 10 hours a day have telomeres comparable to individuals who are 8 years older biologically than their actual age. 8 years, not from a disease, not from a genetic condition, from sitting. The solution is not to stand all day. Standing has its own complications when done excessively. The solution is interruption, movement snacks, as some researchers call them. Breaking a sitting session every 30 to 45 minutes with even 2 to 3 minutes of gentle movement, standing, walking to the kitchen, a few slow leg raises, a brief walk around the room, is enough to reset the physiological cascade. It is enough to restore circulation, re-engage dormant muscles, and interrupt the inflammatory signal. 2 minutes every 45 minutes. That is the intervention. It is almost absurdly simple relative to the benefit it produces. The second routine is one I hesitate to bring up because I know how it lands, but the evidence is too clear for me to stay quiet about it. It is poor sleep, and specifically the habit of treating sleep as negotiable. I am not talking about the occasional bad night. I am talking about a sustained pattern, years, often decades, of sleeping less than the body needs, sleeping at irregular hours, sleeping poorly due to untreated conditions, and crucially, treating this as simply the way things are rather than as a health problem with consequences. In the patients I see who seem to have aged faster than their years would suggest, disrupted or insufficient sleep is present more consistently than almost any other single factor. Here's why it matters so profoundly for physical aging specifically. During deep sleep, the slow wave stages that your body cycles through in the earlier part of the night, your body does the majority of its tissue repair. Growth hormone, which in adults is responsible not for growing taller but for repairing muscle, maintaining bone density, and regenerating cartilage tissue, is secreted almost exclusively during deep sleep, not during rest, not during light sleep, during deep sleep. If you are consistently getting less deep sleep than your body needs, whether because you are not sleeping long enough or because something is interrupting your sleep cycles, pain, sleep apnea, stress, poor sleep hygiene, your body is conducting less repair every single night than it needs to, night after night, year after year. The cumulative effect of this is not subtle. Muscle mass declines faster in people with chronic sleep insufficiency. Bone density measurements are lower. Inflammatory markers are consistently elevated. Cognitive processing slows, and cartilage, the tissue at the center of joint health, regenerates more slowly, making it more vulnerable to the daily wear that movement produces. Sleep is not rest in the passive sense. Sleep is maintenance. It is the nightly service your body performs on itself. And when that service is consistently cut short, the machinery ages faster. There is also a secondary effect that I think is underappreciated. Poor sleep profoundly affects the hormone cortisol. When sleep is insufficient or disrupted, cortisol, the primary stress hormone, remains elevated into the morning hours rather than following its natural pattern of peaking briefly upon waking and then declining through the day. Chronically elevated cortisol breaks down muscle tissue, increases fat storage around the midsection, impairs immune function, and, critically for joint health, suppresses the body's ability to regulate inflammation. So poor sleep does not just reduce repair, it simultaneously increases damage. It is a two-sided attack on the body's ability to stay vital and functional. If you are watching this and thinking that you have simply been a poor sleeper for years, and that it is just who you are, I want to gently but firmly push back on that. In the vast majority of cases, poor sleep is not a fixed trait. It is the result of specific addressable factors. Sleep apnea, which is dramatically underdiagnosed in people over 60, is one of the most common and most treatable. Pain that interrupts sleep, including joint pain, often improves significantly with the right management, which in turn improves sleep, which in turn accelerates the healing of the pain. It is a positive cycle that begins with the decision to take sleep seriously as a health priority rather than as a luxury. The third routine, the one I mentioned earlier that almost nobody talks about, is chronic low-grade dehydration. And I do not mean the kind where you feel thirsty and your mouth is dry. I mean the kind where your fluid intake is consistently just below what your body needs, day after day, not dramatically, not noticeably, but enough to have significant physiological effects over time. Here is the reason this matters so specifically for aging and for joint health. The synovial fluid that lubricates your joints, the fluid that allows the surfaces inside your knee, your hip, your shoulder to glide smoothly against each other rather than grinding, is composed primarily of water. Cartilage itself is approximately 70% water in healthy, well-hydrated tissue. The intervertebral discs that cushion your spine are even more water-dependent, with the nucleus at the center of each disc being approximately 80% water. These structures depend on consistent, adequate hydration to maintain their volume, their resilience, and their ability to absorb and distribute load. When you are chronically, mildly dehydrated, cartilage becomes stiffer and less resilient. Synovial fluid becomes less abundant and less effective as a lubricant. The intervertebral discs thin slightly, reducing the cushioning between vertebrae. None of this is painful in the acute sense. None of it announces itself. But over years of consistent mild dehydration, the cumulative effect on these tissues is significant and measurable. There is also a critical circulatory dimension. Many of the nutrients that support joint tissue, glucosamine, hyaluronic acid, the raw materials your body uses to maintain cartilage, are transported through the bloodstream and through joint fluid. When hydration is insufficient, this transport is less efficient. Think of it as trying to deliver supplies through a river that is running low. The goods do not move as freely, the distribution is less even, and the tissues downstream receive less of what they need. The challenge with correcting this habit is that the thirst mechanism becomes less reliable with age. Older adults consistently feel less thirsty than their hydration status actually warrants, which means that by the time you feel thirsty, you are often already mildly dehydrated. Waiting for thirst is not an adequate hydration strategy over 60. What works better is intentional, scheduled fluid intake, a glass of water upon waking before each meal and in the late afternoon, creating a rhythm that does not depend on thirst signals to trigger it. Herbal teas, broths, and water-rich foods all count. Alcohol and high caffeine beverages do not. They increase fluid loss and work against you. So here is where we land. 3 daily routines, repeated quietly over years, each one individually capable of measurably accelerating biological aging and almost certainly working in combination in most of our lives. Sitting too long without interruption, undermining muscle function, joint nutrition, and cellular health at the chromosome level. Poor or insufficient sleep, cutting short the body's nightly repair process while simultaneously elevating the inflammatory signals that accelerate damage. And chronic mild dehydration, gradually reducing the resilience and lubrication of the very joint tissues that determine how freely and comfortably you move through your life. None of these are dramatic. None of them feel dangerous in the moment. That is precisely why they are so effective at doing their damage unnoticed. And that is precisely why naming them, understanding them, and making even small, deliberate changes in response to them matters as much as it does. You do not have to fix everything today, but pick one. Pick the one that you most clearly recognized yourself in as you watched this video. Move more often during the hours you sit. Take your sleep seriously enough to investigate what is disrupting it. Drink a glass of water right now before you do anything else. Small things done consistently over time are the only things that actually change the trajectory, and your body, with everything it has carried you through, deserves that consistency. Thank you for being here with me today on Mobility Matters. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave me a comment telling me which of these 3 you are going to work on first. I read every single one, and I will see you in the next video.